What is the mission of the Texas Venture Alliance?
It's to help amplify the venture stories across the state and also help amplify the venture stories at the Texas State Capitol too. We have a newsletter and we have a website that helps to highlight the resources all across the state, even by city. You'll see a lot of city pages on the Texas Venture Alliance.org website, telling those stories in a lot of different ways and also with events too. Obviously, people like events and something that's more venture capital, venture focused, that was the opportunity.
Welcome to Forging the Future and the innovation happening all over Texas, from Austin to Houston, is super exciting. And today I have C.S. Freeland, the founder of the Texas Venture Alliance and the Texas Venture Crawl, joining us to share insights into the thriving innovation scene in Texas. So welcome to the show, C.S.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for driving down from Austin today.
Yeah, I love being here.
So tell me a little bit about your background in Texas and becoming an Austinite.
Well, I grew up mostly just outside of Dallas, if y'all know Mansfield or Arlington. Went to college at Texas State University, which is in San Marcos between Austin and San Antonio. Moved to Austin, have been there for 15 years, just ever since then. And I spent majority of last decade working at a tech venture studio. It was Austin's first one. And I helped with the go-to-market launch plans with that. Ever since pandemic, have noticed there's just the sheer influx of new investors in Austin. And we see that all across Texas now, of course. But then I ran a local kind of startup investors club as the Austin Venture Association. And I ran that as the founding executive director for about a year and a half or so. Jumped off that to go do a statewide venture capital association, which is the Texas Venture Alliance. Yeah, it's been such a wild ride. And I love Texas. I love the diversity of all the different cities. So love being here and getting to explore everything that Texas has to offer and really seeing the innovative part come into play a lot more than I've ever noticed or have ever seen. So just working with startups and VCs and really the greater venture community has been really an exceptional experience and just such a crazy time the last couple of years. So, yeah.
Well, you said the first venture studio. What was the name of that?
It was called PowerShift Group, and it was really just a handful of kind of senior tech executives, and they had all done very well, especially during the .com era, as a lot of M&A and IPO. And so I got to see how business is done, at that level and around really stellar entrepreneurs, lifetime entrepreneurs. So.
What was your major in college then?
It was communications, and I minored in business. And, it does play into a lot of what I do now. Before going into school, I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to write for the newspaper. So,
what is that?
And then they were we started noticing that newspapers were kind of folding. And then the rise of digital was early. And, this is obviously before Twitter or just social media the way that it is. But no matter what, storytelling is important. Doesn't matter what type of medium it is. And, obviously y'all know that here. And just kind of storytelling of kind of the more venture side of things, like venture level on up is, I think, a really great opportunity right now for Texas. Was
that venture studio your first job after college?
I worked at a project management, a timesheet software company. Okay. That was maybe 2 years, a year and a half or so. And I realized that I had so much passion and I was pouring it into timesheet software. And I would want to stay late and do 10 or 12-hour days. And then I realized that oh, whoa, there's a whole startup scene starting to emerge in Austin. And I went to what was the first Austin startup crawl. And I was like, wow, people could like be really passionate, and it's definitely needed in that type of business. So maybe I should join a startup then. And that's what I ended up doing.
The startup studio, which deals with a lot of startups, right? So
Yeah. It's good for my personality too, because I like doing the communications and marketing and storytelling piece for a lot of really compelling new concepts.
Well, your background includes both politics and venture. I mean, how did you really get started in politics? You know, what was that? How did your journey evolve and contribute to what you're doing now with the Venture Alliance?
Well, I guess you kind of say like storytelling for startups, but storytelling for like during elections and campaigns. So I was tapped by the mayor of Austin at the time, his reelection team, to do basically like a go-to-market plan for his campaign. I mean, I could have taken several different shapes. Could have been just like a souped up volunteer, could have been like a paid staff, or we even considered like, should we do like a PAC situation? There's different ways to do that. And a paid member of the team would actually mean I'd have to leave my work, my company. So I was just a souped up volunteer, which is really awesome for me because I could do like pretty much whatever I wanted to, test things out. And they were just like, wow, you're the best volunteer ever. And they love that. So the reelection campaign was successful. And then the Fort Worth mayor's team heard about it, Mayor Betsy Price. And they actually legit hired me to go do basically what was successful in Austin and do like a flavor of that for Fort Worth. And now kind of is a great segue into what we do at Texas Venture Alliance is like a fusion of the political world and government and startups and venture capital, which we didn't have a voice really before.
Was politics always something on your radar as an interest? I mean, I think for a lot of people, politics is something that just happens over here, and we might go vote once in a while, but how do you get tapped to do a mayor's campaign, you know?
It was one of the investors in the portfolio companies. She and my boss were on a panel, and she's a real force. And she kind of took me under her wing. Her name is Ying McGuire, and she's one of the co-founders of the Austin Asian Chamber of Commerce. She's like, you really should help out with this. And she's also trying to get me plugged into things. And she was like, can you do your marketing, social media stuff? And I'm like, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, all the above. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So I think she picked up on your energy level and was really directing that energy to things that she thinks you would have an effect
to her
on.
Stuff.
Well, I mean, you know,
like
not?
Totally. Anything I'll just follow her.
Mm-hmm. Sure. All right. So, you know, what is the mission of the Texas Venture Alliance?
It's to help amplify the venture stories across the state and also help amplify the venture stories at the Texas State Capitol, too. We have not really had an entity that was focused on, so for example, in a tactical way, we have a newsletter and we have a website that helps to highlight the resources all across the state, even by city. You'll see a lot of city pages on the TexasVentureAlliance.org website. And having an active newsletter at least twice a month. We do that in email, and we do that through LinkedIn too, a little bit Twitter. But yeah, telling those stories in a lot of different ways, and also with events too. Obviously, people like events, and something that's more venture capital, venture focused. We thought that was the opportunity.
So is this something that other states do, or was Texas just behind in getting something like this implemented?
Yeah, actually it was around 20 years ago, Rick Perry did what was at the time a super genius move. Like no other states had kind of an R&D, a legislative effort to jumpstart the innovation. And that was a lot of commercialization out of universities. And it was a big fund, and I think that while that went well in a sense, there's a better way to do that. And that was like 2 decades ago. I mean, So, and then now we have kind of fallen behind on that, really. And we have watched other states lead, red and blue states, have some kind of effort, what I call recognition of the startup and venture community. And, Texas should be doing something for sure. We'll never be like up there with like a Silicon Valley type of hub. Silicon Valley as a region does 10x what Texas does as a region. It's just apples and oranges, but there's always something that we can do, and this is economic development.
So far we're
so far
we're gonna give them a run for the money, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, look, the world can change instantly, as we know, and so just kind of realize that there's this opportune moment in time. And I still consider it like a gold rush. So maybe our industry and startup and venture took a hit, like our industry got cut in half. But really, nothing was normal about the last 2 years. If we talk about 2021 to 2023, or maybe even this year, like nothing was normal. In fact, I feel like it's a right sizing. If people are saying, oh, we're going back to fundraising, numbers back in 2019. Okay, that's great. Because do you know what happened in 2020? So like, don't benchmark on something where statistically you would have thrown that out. So I like to say that, and also the Texas gold rush opportunity. So many folks interested in starting a company or helping entrepreneurs, and we need to capture that magic. And if Texas does that, we'd be a true force.
When we were talking earlier, you made one point that Texas shouldn't be following; it should be leading, right?
Yeah.
And so, what did you mean by that in relation to this venture alliance?
Oh, I get a little charged about this because I'm like, well, Texas. I like to think of Texas almost as a country. We have like border challenges. The GDP is bigger than Canada. And now it's bigger than Italy.
They'd be the 8th largest country by GDP.
Entire countries in the world. Mm-hmm. Like we need to act like the GDP that we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
that's why I'm like, how are we not leading? And so I feel like we will. But we just need a little firepower to it. And we need to share information, share notes on what we're learning. And Texas is just like a different style. And I also like to think of Texas as a leader in, what's the Texas brand? It's like frontierism, trailblazing, like go for broke, we don't know what we're going to find, but let's try and we'll revel in it too. Back in the day, like hundreds of years ago, whatever, people would go out there, cowboys and cowgirls probably go out there and like try and tap into a salt mine or like stick an oil derrick in there. And like, they don't know if anything's going to happen. They might go broke. That's like today's entrepreneur. And I want to have like more of that big thinking, just go for it mentality. I don't want Texas to be soft. There's just no way. It just can't be. We're Texas. We have to be big. We can't do small.
So you conducted the biggest statewide and simultaneous event last year for venture, the Texas Venture Crawl, which was 10 cities, something like 3,000 Texans. Tell me a little bit about that experience and insights that came out of that.
Well, I felt like, look, if you want to start like a statewide organization focused on venture, you can't just have it in one city. You could be headquartered, but like Texas is everywhere. So I went all around the state in like 20 different cities, and I, just said hello. And Texas is very welcoming and friendly, and the Southern hospitality people were generous with their time. And we just kind of talked about what the scene was like there, what we're experiencing in Austin, what I've heard around the state. Well, I just said, I think we're going to have an event called the Texas Venture Crawl in Houston, and we'll do it again in Austin because it started in Austin with 5 locations. It's called Texas Venture Crawl because it's like a pub crawl, but like with VCs. So VCs, Silverton Partners were the first VC, and then Live Oak and Mercury and all, Next Coast and all them. So it started out in 2022. And then I was like, well, now, in this new Texas capacity for Texas Venture Alliance, we should have like a Texas Venture Crawl. We had point people in all these different cities, and then those folks, they're really like hubs, business hubs in their community. And they knew maybe some folks who were investors or had investors, and they could share those stories. Not that every company needs investors or even wants investors, but just sharing what that's like when you take things to the next level in that aspect. But actually, now that we're in January of 2024, I'm like, wait, rebrand to Texas Venture Fest? Because a venture crawl is really only specific to Austin or maybe Houston, just by geography. So Texas Venture Fest now, and that was a really great experience just to see. It was like simultaneous, all in the same evening. It was on a Friday. And so we'll do it again. And I don't know the exact dates, but I think it's October 3rd. It's the first Thursday of October. And
it'll be called Texas Venture
Fest. Well, I know that you were on a panel in Houston. How'd that go?
Well, it was exciting to see so many people there for the venture crawl. And then I was on the panel, like you said, with Blair and a couple of the other VCs here in Houston. And it was an Ask Me Anything, so really had a lot of interaction from the people that were there, and a lot of interest in this VC thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought it was great, and I really liked the fact that you really broadened it statewide, and it was happening at the same time, and there was a feeling of collaboration and almost like a New Year event, the countdown kind of thing.
Yeah, but, I kind of likened it to New Year's or something. Like we didn't need to do a cheers at midnight kind of thing, but it's happening across the state, and there's some kind of unifying element to that. Which, to beat Texas, you really have to be everywhere all at once. So that's kind of cool to hear your perspective, because I was like running around like crazy in Austin trying to make sure that was happening at least okay.
You get a sense of community knowing that it's happening all at the same time across the state, but just having maybe even some check-ins like they do on a New Year kind of thing, just briefly, just to kind of connect people, would be kind of interesting from a production standpoint. But,
we could orchestrate it more. I mean, it was the first time we'd ever done that, so I was like, we just got to do it. Just got to make sure that happens. But definitely. And we still have time. We have the Texas Venture Gala beforehand. But we have plenty of time. And now people will have already had a Texas Venture Crawl. So it's just, really, if you think about it, it's just people having an event. It happens to be all at the same time if we can orchestrate it that way. But it's actually like kind of easy. And just networking afterwards or before and after. So
Well, engaging the community and having those primary point sponsors kind of help coordinate it so that you're not having to do, all 20 of them or whatever.
Yeah, I got to delegate more. I realized when we scaled out to all over Texas, I was like, oh, I'm only human. I can't So, but that was the opportunity. It was, working with Christine here, and everyone was just so full.
At the Ion,
Yeah, at the Ion. And, thanks for Ion for helping to even be a host, and volunteers, Adrian with the Bayou City Startups Happy Hour, folks were really coming together. And I think that even spotlighting some cities had a Texas Venture Crawl where they were speaking in Spanish. That was kind of cool. Round Rock Chamber had a Texas Venture Crawl where they actually cut a check, 20 or 25K to a robotics startup. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even think about that. And then El Paso is technically, they're in a different time zone. So that was just kind of funny. It was just super interesting.
I think it's interesting from what you said that, a lot of people think everything that's going on right now as far as innovation and venture happens within the Texas Triangle, right? So Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, and the Round Rock and other regions inside. But you've been talking a lot about places that are pretty far away from that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I never shut up about Brownsville because it's just so much fun. And I'm a beach type of gal. So, versus mountains or hiking, just put me on the beach. I'll just have a drink in my hand, get a tan or something, and not do anything. So, Texas has a lot to offer. And then Also like going to Corpus Christi, they have an angel network. There's angel networks popping up, one in the Hill Country area.
I'm seeing some of that with the Houston Angel Network here, where they're trying to reach out and collaborate with like CTAN and some of the other larger angel networks and try to get that collaboration going and not just be a silo. Right?
Well, I'm excited to learn about that because actually my next meeting is with Eric from the Houston Angel Network.
Okay, great.
And so I think I've met all of them now.
Is the Angel Network and Angel, investing going to be part of the mission of the Texas Venture Alliance? Because it is a little different, right?
Yeah. When I went to all the different cities, I did hear a lot about, well, CS, great, what you're doing, raw venture capital and startups, like good. But like if Texas is like so rich, like we're a very wealthy state, where's the money going into in venture capital and startups? Like where is it? And I'm like, you know what? I think when you try to even start a trend, when you want to start anything, you don't just go really big, except for Texas Venture Gala. Okay. You don't usually go like big all at once. You just you start to just say the words a little bit. Like just say the word like venture. Like what does that mean in different cities? It means something, they're all different. So, like, for example, venture in the Hill Country, in those two cities that had a venture crawl out there, it's a little bit different. Like, that's more angel networks. And that might be, the stereotype is that those cities have a bunch of, like, retired Houston execs that just, like, want to get some space and some land, like, away from people, have some wine, enjoy themselves out there. It's like wine country, hill country. So that might be, potential LPs, that's potential angel investors. And if we just go there, just plant the seed. You don't have to have like a 500-person event like y'all had here in Houston. Mm-hmm. Just it starts small, and people are like, venture, interesting. We don't typically hear that, so like their ears perk up a little bit, and then like venture capital, what does that mean? And it's also just great to be out there too. Just good to see them, and the environment's so beautiful there. But to your point, startup investor, angel investors, angel networks, I think that there's a general sense of wanting to be supportive and seeing that as a way that potentially is a great, want to be a great outcome for people too.
Yeah, I think also, it's an education component, right? What is venture, and is it not? It's not just for very, very rich people to invest in startups. You can do that as a high net worth individual, or even someone that wants access to the venture class. The check sizes don't have to be so huge. You don't have to be a billionaire, and there's a lot of misconception about that. I think also in Texas, there's a lot of experience investing in things like real estate and of course, energy, oil and gas, etc. And this whole startup thing is a little more foreign to some of those investors, and they don't really understand the technology so much or how they get educated about it. And of course, one of the ways to do that is, you don't have to pick out a particular startup and make an investment and do all the due diligence. One way to take advantage of that is to put your money into a venture fund that knows how to do that.
Right? Professional investors.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So that's one of the things that that with Texas Venture Gala and the forum is an educational piece too. Of course, the gala is nice and we'll get dressed up and all that, but having conversations around what are like the next generation, like generational wealth, the next generation wants to invest in, maybe that's like impact investing or go into startups or venture capital funds. And so, having a place to talk about that, have a great time with it too. That's something, what are the trends, and also being real about it too. Like, you could lose your money in this. Like, just be aware of all the different ways that this could go wrong too. What are the red flags? How do you spot a great investor? And what do all these, like, what's all the legalities? What's the financial and regulatory conditions and what are the expectations, and that's a shape-shifting landscape as well. So again, yeah, just information sharing.
And this is about the Texas Venture Gala that you have upcoming in April, right?
Yeah. And there's a forum. So the gala is April 13th, and it's the second Saturday of the month. But then a welcome reception the day ahead in the evening.
And that'll be where?
It'll be in Austin. At the Fairmont downtown. So it's going to be a great view too, a great venue, and it is, central in Texas. So, and, a lot of the VCs are there already, but really like a feature of the more kind of like prominent gala guests. We'll have a lot of them on different types of panels. So definitely come and bring all your podcasting equipment as well.
We'll be there.
Yeah, it will. And like that is the opportunity for Texas right now, is like to convene people. So the two events Texas Venture Alliance mostly focuses on is like the Texas Venture Fest. Now it's like expansive everywhere all at once, and everyone's invited. Like it was like 3,000 people last year, and then this event, 6 months apart from that, which is a good enough amount of time, will be a more invite only. We're going to curate, the guest list and be like just super exceptional people who can make a big impact, whether that's on the government front, in Texas, or, when they make moves, they, the industry listens, the industry watches, and they're just great leaders. Yeah, that's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, it'll be more than just a dinner, like you said.
Yeah. It's like the investor dinner of investor dinners. I feel like there's like all these investor dinners happening across the state, but like this one is just like ginormous.
So you plan to have a bunch of different panels during the day that people can then attend and listen to?
Yeah. We kind of cut it into 3. Right now, the ticket sales actually just went live last week. Okay. So you could, buy tickets online or really get a table so that we can see your company branded and all that. But yeah, we cut into 3 different, there's like an LP track. So like I was talking about generational wealth, fund of funds, endowments, pension, like what's the landscape for that right now, especially in such a shape-shifting landscape. There's a lot of just new information, like and then a VC track. So, venture firm, governance, things like that. And just a general Texas one too, featuring, for example, we want to have like an angel network. Like there's so many different angel networks across the state. Put them on a panel. Yeah, just three different breakout rooms. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I think what you're doing is super important to kind of facilitate the collaboration across venture and the angel networks. And that's one reason why we decided to become a founding member of the Venture Alliance. And I'm pretty excited about the gala that's coming up. And
I've never done anything like this before, and this is like the coolest thing ever. So it's really great to like build this with you. It feels like we're co-creating something. Like I don't even like saying that I'm a founder of Texas Venture Alliance. I feel like I'm a co-founder. Like you're a co-founder. We're all co-creating this. And so my joke is like, it's about capitalism, but like this is everyone together for the common good or for the greater good.
Well, I think it's true. That's the whole point.
Before capitalism?
Yeah, it's capitalism, but capitalism is a force of good. It's like this is how we create businesses and products that actually and services that raises everybody up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by creating a startup that solves a need, by creating a rocket that takes people to Mars, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's
so we can hightail it out here.
Exactly, if you need to.
So need to.
It's all for ultimately the benefit of a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if people can make money doing it along the way, great. Sometimes you lose money, and sometimes it is just about the journey. So how do you believe the Texas Venture Alliance is forging the future of Texas?
Well, I think that we are only able to forge the future with others. I don't even like saying that I'm a founder of Texas Venture Alliance. we are like co-founders in this. You're a co-founding member, and y'all see things. Here in Houston, we're like open eyes, open ears everywhere, and even baked into the name Texas Venture Alliance. We actually had Texas Venture Association. Like, so being associated is great, but like intentionally use the word alliance. Like, we are allied, and we don't do anything without other people. So I think that there's, again, going back to the Texas brand, there's like this sense of frontierism, individualism, like go at it, maybe go at it if you're alone, but really we're not alone. That's really great about the state. We really could just like knock out any of the other states, with just this piece. We already do in so many other aspects. And so I just feel so lucky, to be doing that. And then here with y'all, too, it's just so important. And you're also, in your own way, telling these stories that are very important of forging the future. And the future is going to be good, like no matter if it's rocky or what, that's just the nature of the industry. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it won't be good unless we try, right?
Yes.
So we're going to
at least
all try hard. Well, thanks for being on the show, CS. You mentioned cowboys. I actually have my cowboy socks on, so I'm with you on the frontier aspect, the wildcatter spirit, and I have some socks for you. Go Texas, right? So Texas. So here's some socks.
Oh my God, that's so funny because we were talking about socks before. I have my Ralph Lauren. I don't want to show them because yours are way better. And these are, oh my gosh, thank you.
Thanks for everything you're doing for Texas.
Love them.
Yeah. That's great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.